All right, let's just jump right in, shall we? We're about to explore one of the most fascinating, efficient, and downright weird entities in all of biology. They're not really alive, but they're not really dead either. They are, however, absolute masters of invasion. We're talking, of course, about the virus.
And right away, we run into a huge paradox. Are these things even alive? I mean, look at this. On one hand, yeah, they seem to be. They make copies of themselves, they have their own genetic code, and they mutate and evolve. But on the other hand, they're not made of cells, they have zero metabolism, and, you can crystallize them like a grain of salt. They just don't fit into our neat little boxes of what life is supposed to be.
And that's really the key takeaway here. They live in this bizarre gray zone between complex chemistry and actual living biology. They're not quite in the club of life, but they're not totally out of it either. This really makes them life's ultimate outsider.
So to figure out how this outsider works, we've got to look at its design. And honestly, it's a masterpiece of ruthless efficiency. It's a tiny machine built for one job and one job only: a hostile takeover.
When you break it down, a virus is shockingly simple. It's not even a full cell. It's just a little bundle of genetic instructions, some DNA or RNA, wrapped up in a protein shell. That's it. And this leads to a super important phrase: obligate intracellular parasite. It sounds complicated, but all it means is a virus has to get inside another living cell to do anything. Without a host, well, it's just an inert particle floating around.
And they come in all these wild shapes and sizes. Some look like rods, some like 20-sided dice. But for our story today, we're going to zero in on this one. It kind of looks like a lunar lander from an old sci-fi movie, right? This is a bacteriophage, which literally means bacteria eater, a virus that has evolved specifically to hunt and hijack bacteria.
So how does this microscopic hijacker actually pull off its mission? Well, it follows this brutally effective 5-step plan. Think of it like a biological heist, a quick and dirty smash-and-grab operation known as the lytic cycle.
So here's the plan, okay? Step 1, attachment. You gotta case the joint. Step 2, penetration. You break in. Step 3, biosynthesis. You take over the factory's controls. Step 4, maturation. You build your getaway crew. And finally, Step 5, lysis, the explosive escape, leaving the whole place in ruins. Let's break it down, starting with Step 1.
Okay, Step 1, attachment. The phage isn't just bouncing around hoping for the best. No way. Its tail fibers are like these super specific keys designed to fit perfect little locks, receptor sites on the outside of the bacterium. Once it finds a match, it latches on and doesn't let go. The joint is officially cased.
Now for Step 2, penetration. This is it, the moment of invasion. The phage tail contracts, bam! And it works just like a syringe, punching right through the cell wall and injecting its only real weapon, its DNA, straight into the bacterium. Its protein shell, now just an empty husk, gets left behind.
And this is where the real twisted genius of the virus kicks in. Its DNA immediately takes charge. It's like uploading malicious code that completely reprograms the cell. The bacterium just stops doing its normal job and is forced to do one thing and one thing only: start churning out endless copies of the virus's DNA and all the protein parts it needs.
Which leads to Step 4, maturation. Inside this poor, doomed cell, an entire army of clones literally builds itself. All those separate parts that the cell was forced to make, the heads, the tails, the DNA strands, they just spontaneously click together, forming hundreds of brand new, fully operational, and very deadly bacteriophages.
And now for the grand finale, lysis, the explosive escape. The new viruses produce a special enzyme that acts like a bomb, dissolving the bacterium's cell wall from the inside out. The cell just bursts open, unleashing a flood of 100 to 200 new viral hijackers, all ready to find new targets and start the cycle all over again. Heist complete.
Okay, so that was pretty violent, incredibly fast. But what if a virus plays the long game? What if the goal isn't a quick smash and grab, but a quiet, long-term infiltration?
Well, that brings us to a second, much stealthier strategy, the lysogenic cycle. So think of this one less like a bank heist and more like planting a sleeper agent deep, deep behind enemy lines.
See, in this strategy, the viral DNA doesn't just take over right away. It does something much sneakier.
It literally weaves itself into the host cell's own chromosome, becoming a silent passenger called a prophage. It just lies there, completely dormant. And here's the crazy part. Every single time that bacterium divides and multiplies, it unknowingly copies the viral DNA right along with its own. The sleeper agent is multiplying, and the host has absolutely no clue.
So you've got these two amazing strategies, one that's loud and fast, and one that's quiet and patient. And when you see them both, you start to understand why viruses are one of the most successful and mind-bogglingly abundant biological things on the entire planet. They are absolute masters of survival.
And their toolkit for survival is just incredible. To make sure their takeover works, they have evolved so many tricks. They can straight up shred the host's DNA. They can block the body's first responders, the immune system. They can shut down the alarm signals that cells use to call for help. They can even stop the cells that make antibodies from working properly. And, of course, the big one. They constantly mutate, always changing their code to stay one step ahead.
But it's so important to remember why they do all of this. This entire complex arsenal of biological weapons exists for one very simple reason. They are, at their core, non-functional without any host cell. Their relentless drive to invade isn't evil. It comes from a simple, absolute need to make copies of themselves, to exist. Which leaves us with one last big question to ponder. After seeing how they operate, the hijacking, the destruction, it's so easy to paint them as the bad guy. But are they just an enemy invader, or are they something more fundamental? A blind, relentless force of nature that has been shaping the evolution of all life on this planet, including us, for billions of years.